Thank you so much for being here. All right, let's go. Firstly, thank you ever so much for coming. We're filming tonight. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
That classes as a waiver. All right, sweet. Let's bloody do it. Valori's on. Please put your hands together. Welcome to the stage, your comedian, Luke Benson. Give yourselves a big round of applause on coming to Australia. Thank you so much. There's a million shows on, and you've elected to be here. I am super grateful. So thank you ever so much. Right, we're going to have a really lovely time. I've done the show in Perth and Adelaide before here, and it did lovely in Adelaide. I know they're just happy if there's wind. It doesn't take a lot to impress them, but it's a lovely show, and we're going to have a really nice time. So I am very, very grateful that you are here. Little disclaimer before we get into it. I'm a huge man and this is a tiny room. I was not really aware of that when I accepted the venue. I'm very grateful, but I'm just going to sit down because otherwise you're all going to have really sore necks and that is not ideal, right, Joe? I mean, you're being like, the jokes are good, but I'm getting early arthritis and like that weird lump in the back of my neck. So I'm just going to sit and I hope that's okay. Is that okay, everyone? Sweet. A little bit. Tall bloke, right? 6'7". That's how big I am, right? It's a little bit over 2 meters. It's a good height. That means that during the age of COVID, I knew that I had to be a me away from me at all times. 6'7", 7'3" wingspan. There's only really two things I could be with these dimensions. One is an NBA wing defender. The other is a desert scavenger bird. Just got a new job standing in front of used car showrooms. Imagine if I could do these jokes standing up the power. But yeah, once you get past 6'6", you become officially recognised as a giant. So, giant, right? I've just been elected the new president of Giant Football. Oh. Yeah, I'm going to be head of Fo Fum for the next 25 minutes. It's corrupt as fuck. It's good, right? And I'm mixed race. Right, I'm a mixed race, you might not be able to tell, but my dad is a giant and my mum was a slag. So there we go, that's so my upbringing's right. I'm from can't wait for her to see that joke, from a bordello. But and it is quite a strong accent. I'm from Newcastle in England, that's what this accent is, right? I'm from quite a shit part of Newcastle. It's called Newcastle. And where I'm from, people don't really have big dreams. Like a lot of them think that aspiration is that sweat you get on your crack. What a delayed ripple on that joke. It's a lot of fun, right, Joe? And I do recognise it is quite a strong accent, right? But I need you lot to appreciate this is me working really hard to speak clearly. It's genuinely my dial in the back. I go home to my little backwater where I'm from, Seaton Sluice, and they all look at me and go, "Who the fuck's he trying to be with all these fancy spaces between his words? The daft lanky bastard!" Which is a compliment. But I do, I live out here, right? And sort of little disclaimer, there's a bit in the show where I talk about mental health and talk about like some sort of quite dark stuff, and it gets like a little bit heavy for a few minutes, and I just need you to know that going into those bits of material, I am okay, right? Because otherwise it might look a little bit like I have staged my own intervention or a very expensive cry for help. That is not the case. I declared healthy adults by a professional. Everything's fine. We rock and roll in. All right, and that's it. So we're underway, right? We're absolutely bloody nailing it. I'm from Newcastle, and generally what I'll do is when I get to go back is me, my dad, and my granddad go to the Working Men's Club, which is a fantastic name for the institution because nobody there is working, apart from the woman behind the bar, due to a mix of laziness and Margaret Thatcher. Right, watching Newcastle match. Newcastle generally play shit. That's been their primary tactic for the previous 48 years. And my granddad will get up afterwards and he'll say something like, "They came out like a pack of queers." I go, "I think you'll find, Grandad, the collective noun is a pride." But he's a proper man's man, right? Like he fought in World War II and stuff like that. Now he likes gambling, that's his thing. Now I like horse racing, but I don't like how gambling ruins families. Like I would like it if they had a horse race where all of the horses had names like, "Get out the pokies, John." So it just kicks off and it just goes, get out the pokies, John, followed by I'm leaving you with the tennis coach coming up on the inside, which is what you never do because you've got this drunk prick who can't get it up anymore, and I'm taking the kids now, they love the tennis coach comes out, the kids out, and all of that junk, so I'm a paedophile, John, so get out the pokies, John. There's only one winner, it's tennis coach, full of close, got the kids in the house, cheers. There you go. There you go, cheers mate, it's a bit early in the show for a big routine, but we're doing it. Right, it's exciting, and another thing that'll happen is I'll go back to Seaton Sluice right now, see all of these lads who are sort of living out this like heteronormative village ideal, right, you know what I mean? They're sort of grown into their father's shells, right, so we're basically moving from being like the Hall and Sons to the Hall, right, and you know, where basically their life cycle is finish school, get a trade, marry lass from the village, go to Tenerife once a year, go to the pub 4 nights a year until death. And I do this, right? I've been doing comedy for about 16 years, and they can't quite work out where they sit against me in like whatever societal matrix they've been building, right? So I have the same chat with this lad who I went to school with, and he goes, "Yeah, Luke, yeah, Skywalker, are you still doing the stand-up comedy, are you? Still doing the stand-up comedy?" I go, yeah. He goes, "How many times you gig in a week?" I go, "About 4 or 5 generally." "And how many people coming to see you?" "Oh, anywhere between sort of 30 up to a few hundred, really." "And how much they paying? How much they paying to come and see you?" "Anywhere between sort of $20 up to about 50. And who books that? Is that through an agent who takes about a 20% commission? I'm assuming you pay your taxes." I go, "Yeah, some of it's through an agent, some of it's independent." "All right, and how many weeks of the year are you working? Are you doing like 48, like a good hard working man, or 25, like you're some sort of fucking teacher?" I go, "Oh, you know, about 48 to 50 if I can, do you know what I mean? I just want to work when it's available, really." And he goes, "All right, have you thought about doing telly, or, you know, anything like Mock the Week or Live at the Apollo or McIntyre's Roadshow?" He goes, "If it's my choice." And I don't really feel like that's a fair way to measure anyone's character or value, do you know what I mean? It should be by like what they add and give to society rather than what they make at the end of a week or month, right? Like, it wouldn't be fair for me to go, "Hey there, you alright? What's your name, please?"
Poppy.
"Hey there, Poppy, alright." Great enunciation there, super clear for the room. That was fantastic. It was almost like you had a gut full of the milk of Poppy there. You were so free in how you answered that. And what do you do, Poppy?
I am a waitress, and I also watch children argue for money.
Right, okay, wow, so, well that's a trickier one to deal with. Alright, so let's just go with the first one, really. Right, no one's going to you. I mean, what a confident lady Poppy is. Holy shit. That was amazing. No one's going to you. "Yeah, Poppy, you still..." Part of me wants to do it. Watching children argue for money. It seems antisocial and criminal, but anyway, let's go with it. You're still waitressing, or you're still working in hospital, you're still waitressing, have you thought about maybe working out your own little sales protocol, do you know what I mean? Maybe not like upsell, maybe the sell of the poppy, do you know what I mean? Where you sort of work out some level of patter which drives about creating extra sales, maybe independently, perhaps through some sort of table-based mechanism, like a QR code scanner, but it's uniquely you, do you know what I mean? Maybe it's got like a little poppy code, perhaps. That'd be a decent idea, wouldn't it, do you know what I mean? Where you can monetize it, franchise it, sell it globally. Or have you thought about maybe doing telly, I don't know, MasterChef or something that's got hospitality in it? There you go. I gambled, right? Sometimes you've got a day greatly with that routine. I just thought I'd have a swing at it. There you go, cheers. It was a noble failure, do you know what I mean? So yeah, so I have that. And glad we recorded that one. So where I was, right, this will be about 6-7 years ago now. I was living in London, and I was a part-qualified accountant, part-qualified SEMA. If anyone's wondering, if you were looking at me going, how can this guy get any cooler? That is how. Part-qualified accountant, right, having a really hard time making peace with my mental health issues that I didn't know that I had at the time. I just thought I was struggling a bit and that I was a piece of shit. That was basically it. There were like a few sort of mental health things that I know I have now. Right, I've got anxiety and depression, that's basically it, right? And there were a few states that I was in. One of them was sangry, where I was both sad and angry at once. It's a good one. I feel like that's where we get the name for sangria from. I feel like people were at a picnic, then some idiot knocked the wine into everything else that's in sangria, and we're like, we might as well make the best of the picnic. Although one of them is Borny, where I feel like I'm horny, but I'm actually just bored. There was an ungodly amount of that in Adelaide. There's not a lot to do in that town, man. I was there for 5 weekends. And another one of them is Funt, which is one that my ex identified in me, which is where I think that I've been funny and she didn't tell me what the other half means. Props to you, probably you were ahead of that one, man. It's cool, man. So yeah, so that was basically it. So I was part qualified, just trying to sort of, we were in this, we'd been together for about 5 years, and we were coming to like the sort of back end of the 3rd year where we'd made a plan, like a very loose plan, to have a house and a dog in 3 years, right? We'd sort of said 3 years, house and a dog, that was our plan. Really what it was a dream. We'd spoke about it in a coffee shop, and I had logged that in my brain, and I thought I was the biggest piece of shit if I did not deliver that for us, right? And I thought if I can pass my SEMA exams, then I can lift us beyond, right? I can make enough money to deliver on that. And basically what happened was I made that my primary focus. I stopped working during the day, and over a 13-week period I tried and failed one SEMA exam, Financial Accounting and Tax Principles, 11 times. Right, in bonkers, yeah. Homie was not well. I feel like a few things should have happened during that process. I feel like after attempt number 5, a little Microsoft paperclip should have popped up going, "It looks like you're having a meltdown, mate. Have you thought about going to Tenerife for a couple of weeks?" You know what I mean? Just take the load off, come back in a month, man. SEMA will wait for you. And maybe once I hit double-digit failures in double-digit weeks, little Albert Einstein Microsoft help should have popped up going, "Maybe accountancy isn't for you, mate. I gather you're doing comedy as well. Have you thought about doing that? Or ringing your mate up, David Hall, he needs an and sons at the minute." And moved back to the village, right? So it was pretty bonkers. The SEMA exams are computer-based, right? So what I was doing is I was going to an industrial estate, sitting in a little sort of partitioned nook on a trading estate, and paying £100 a week to make the noises in my head calling myself a piece of shit a lot louder. That was basically the arrangement. I would get the bit of paper from the woman, turn it over, I would see the word fail, I would give it back to her and go, "I'll see you next week." And then I would go away. I was very much the definition of insanity, which is to keep on doing the same thing and expecting a different result. There was a few other things going on at that time. I'd been really ill. I'd ran myself down, and what had happened is the flu had gone into my eye. Right, I had this quite rare condition called ampy. This is a funny show, by the way, right? I appreciate I'm coming in pretty hot off the top rope with a few pretty material bits of trauma, but you know, I do it in a funny way, right, hopefully. Yeah, I had this thing called ampy where the flu had gone into my eye, and I got really lucky. I went to the hospital at A&E, and one of the partners from the London Eye Hospital was there, and he was like, "You've got this thing, we need to get you in," right? And they put me on an immediate course of about 16 tablets a day, because I'm a huge bloke. So I was on so many meds. I was taking 16 tablets a day. So if I jumped up and down, I would rattle. And they were great, right? They were proper lovely. The doctors were so, they knew what they were doing, right? And they knew what the meds did, right? So, and the steroids have a profound effect on one's mood, right? And so the doctor, I can't remember what he's called now, but he would go, so how are the moods? How are the moods? You okay? You okay? You okay? How are the moods? And because I was a comic and I had a toxic attitude towards mental health or admitting weakness, and I'd spent 20 years developing humour as a response, right? I just went, "Oh, I've not been looking over balconies too longingly," which was a lie. Legit, right? I was really contemplating bad stuff, right? I was working for this company called CBRE at the time. I was working on the 10th floor. Those buildings aren't built for people who are over 2 metres tall. The little railing to keep people just sort of looking over the balcony, that was mid-thigh on me. I thought, I can scissor kick this thing. I won't even have to Fosbury flop it. One part of me contemplated a sort of scuba exit, you know. And the other one is sometimes I would walk over the Thames and be like, "Maybe today," and then I'd be like, "You're a fucking huge man, mate. I'm pretty sure your feet will touch the bottom." Right, and then in not doing it, I was only making those noises worse, right, and I was not really well, right. Basically, on the SEMA exams, if anyone's curious, the topic that I couldn't get my head around was this thing called the time value of money, or the present value index. Sort of enables one to measure like insurance and interest and stuff, and I just couldn't understand it. It was pretty brutal, and it was quite important to those calculations. So I was doing everything I could to sort of keep myself together, apart from ask for help and acknowledge that I was damaged goods, right? Just sort of say, help, right? Just couldn't do that. Didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. It was quite stupid in hindsight. But what I was doing was I would do loads of self-help. That felt like the most logical, internalised thing to do. I did a bonkers amount of self-help. Has anyone done any? If they have, they won't talk about it in a room full of strangers, sitting up with the fucking cameras going. Busted! No, I would do loads. It's a very American thing, right? It's not a very sort of British or Australian thing, right? I feel like in America, the attitude is very much, you could be the best you can be because you're already fabulous, but want to be better. What are your goals for the day? Let's write them down in our journal. We can do that. Be the best you can be. Whereas the attitude where I'm from in Newcastle is very much, look at that prick, trying to make his life better by reading a book. Fuck off, I'm off down the pub, it's Curry Tuesday. I'm going to do some online gambling. I am what I am. And you can do too much, right? I read this book, it was brilliant. It was just called, I Can Make You a Smug Prick in 30 Days. I read it in 10. Classic me, came with a free cravat. Had all these good lessons in it, so one of the lessons it said was to give a little back. So the other day I set up a support group for people who suffer with anger management and premature ejaculation issues. It's just called Too Fast, Too Furious. The meetings are a nightmare, they always start too early, finish too quick, and we've had to laminate the pamphlets. Because people get angry and tear them, it's not a sick joke. It's your mind that did that. And the other one is, you only really get American ones, right? There's, like, I've got a few favourites, right? There's like Tony Robbins. He's got this really great book called Awaken the Giant Within. I was really interested in that one and quite disappointed. In the eventuality, right? I thought I'd get a beard or something if I read it, and that didn't happen. Or at least an axe, you know. And but he's got this really famous speech about overcoming adversity, and I feel like he picked the wrong protagonist. He comes out and he just goes, Lance Armstrong had a decision to make. Does he rest, recover, retire, proud of his accomplishments in his sport on hearing the news about testicular cancer? No, you know what he does? He gets back on his bike and he goes out and wins 7 Tour de France off the back of nothing but hard work and endeavour. No Tony Robbins, he had more fuel in him than NASA. It's a miracle he didn't cycle through time. This bloke called Nee Sobo that I love, right? He's like an ex-NFL player who became a fireman and he's like a speaker now. He's great. He's got this wonderful podcast called I'm Not You. He's got another one called Get Your Mind Right. Wicked. He's got this great adage about anxiety when he says, anxiety is your body's way of telling you to move. Just go. Now what he means by that is move towards whatever has given you anxiety and fix it. What he does not mean is blow your life up, move halfway across the world, live and learn. Another couple of winners that I love, right, is this bloke Jocko Willink. He's like this ex-Navy SEAL, just a fucking super alpha bloke, right? He's got like a sort of primordial, he looks like a shaved gorilla. He's fantastic, but he's got this really, he's right into stoicism, and he's got this lovely adage where any of his subordinates or fellow officers would come to him with a problem, he will respond, good. Good. So he'll be like, Jocko, we've run out of bullets. Good. Now we can use our teeth and knives. I don't feel like that really crosses over to normal life, do you know what I mean? I don't feel like we're going to someone with a problem. Oh, me heart's falling out. Good. Now I've got somewhere to keep your phone and your keys. And my absolute favourite, my super favourite, is Eric Thomas. He's got a speech called How Bad You Want It. And if you've ever watched like a YouTube video of like people working out with motivation in the title, it's probably his speech laid over, right? He just comes out and he just goes, how bad you want it? You gotta want it better than you wanna breathe. You gotta be willing to look inside yourself and sacrifice all that you are for what you will become. How bad you want it? And I just listen to that and I think, I'm not sure I want it that badly, mate. I'm just gonna smash one out and have a nap and a biscuit shortly, right? Got quite a busy day ahead, thank you very much. He carries on, he goes, you gotta be willing to go without sleep for 3 or 4 days to make your dreams a reality. No, Eric, they are not dreams, they are hallucinations. You've gone nuts, man. I'm fucking napping some food, you moron. And they're my favourites, right? You only really get American ones, they suit that level of intensity. You don't get any British ones, there's no Cockney speakers coming out and going, oh, you look inside yourself and tell me what your fucking motivation is, you slag. You know, from Belfast going, I need you to tell me what your why is now. Because you would run away from whatever you're supposed to be doing out of fear of a bomb in a bag. And there's no one from Liverpool coming out going, I need you to ask yourself what's the most important thing to do today. And that's because no one from Liverpool has ever asked that question. Unless the answer is, go to Rebel Sports, pick up some new trackies, proper boss. And there's no Australian ones because you're generally such like a lovely, positive, balanced people. Right? I feel like there'd be like fucking 5,000 people in an aircraft hangar waiting for someone to come and tell them the meaning of life. they just sort of float on with board shorts, thongs and a radio mic and just go, yeah, nah, give it a fair crack, she'll be right. And everyone would feel relieved and just float out straight on their sheer charisma and passiveness. So I was doing that. The other thing that I was doing, one, because I've been like recommended to do it by the doctors because all of the meds were literally rotting my body, but also because I wanted to feel strong. If I could be like mentally strong enough, physically strong enough, I could be mentally strong enough, because I was hammering the gym. I fucking love the gym, right? But I feel like people lie about why they are there. People go, oh, what are your goals? And people respond with all of these inane things like, oh, you know, I just want to get in shape. But nobody ever says which one. No one's like, well, I'm cylinder at the moment, but I've got my eye on rhombus. Mission accomplished. I'm a parallelogram, baby. Not me. When I started going, I was at probably quite the angry stage of my manic depression. Bloke says to me, what are your goals, mate? I said, I would like to be able to rip a man's head off with me bare hands. Real old school giant stuff. I was trying to awaken the giant within, and I really believed in me. And he responds, okay, let's start you off on deadlifts. And not, okay, let's introduce you to the mental health system. He was beautiful, this person. He was called Matthew, with one T. He was brilliant, right? And he goes, what are you struggling with, man? And I go, all right, well, I'm a bit depressed, and I'm a bit sexually frustrated. And he goes, okay, once you've got your head around the deadlift, we'll move you on to the clean and jerk. To be honest with you, mate, I'm probably already overdoing the jerk, and I usually clean afterwards. And he goes, and once you've got your head around that, we'll move you on to the snatch. And I went, mate, if we front loaded the snatch, we wouldn't need the jerk now, would we? So I was trying to last a bit longer. But he was great, right? And I feel like that might be the finest Olympic lifting barbell routine you'll ever hear in comedy, right? And because the other thing that I would do, quite sort of contrarily, is I would drink, right? I'm like a weapons grade black belt drinker, right? Sometimes I would say that when I'm really in the drink, I drink like they are about to cancel it. Do you remember how people in Melbourne bought toilet roll? That's how I put the drink away when I've really got a thirst on, right? I was with my dad and he says to me, he goes, you like me, son, you like a drink. You like a drink, you. So now, I don't know about you lot, I do not like just a drink. I like everything like one night, ooh, that's nice, I'll have a pop of one of them later. 2 pints to a couple of pints to a sesh. Till you get blackout drunk, you know, like when it's not you anymore, it's some sort of voodoo shamanist demon. Mine's called Ulag, he's a Viking raider from the Northlands. He's an explorer, and we'll leave it there. I feel like it's okay to let that part of you out every now and then. You know, like when you lose things, you know, like your keys and your job. Big ticket items. You might be the responsible one in your group, right? And, you know, put forward the idea of getting some food, and your mates will shut it down with the words, Eden's cheating. Eden's fucking cheating, man. It's not, is it? It's a night out. It's not Ramadan. I recognise it is currently Ramadan, but you don't look like Ramadi obeying people en masse. And so yes, that's basically me in a nutshell. So I was trying to do those things to keep it together, and I was really not doing a good job of it, right? I was very much imploding. I was sort of daring the universe to blow my life up for me, and I just couldn't cope. And I got to a point where essentially my partner, who was had chronic illnesses, and she has lupus, and was a sex worker and was dominatrix, and anyway, but that it was just quite a lot to manage. It was just quite a lot to look after, really. Do you know what I mean? I sort of had a carer's fatigue, and I just sort of blew my life up. I thought, if I can't look after myself, how can I look after her? And then I sort of moved into a shared house, and a few things happened very quickly. One, I met Cecilia, who was my housemate. She was a cognitive behavioural therapist, and she sort of talked to me about like what I'd been doing with my ex. And she goes, Luke, how are you doing? It sounds like my job, right? Because she was from Sweden, right? And she was clearly Italian, everybody, that's it. And surely okay to laugh at. And yeah, so she says that, right? She's very sweet. That was like a lovely way to put me at ease. And what she did was she put me in touch with someone who pays people with therapists. And then I started doing therapy, right? Now, I met this bloke called Peter, that's who I got paired with, and he was great. Now, what he would do is he would just sort of sit there and go, yeah, okay, okay, yeah, okay, oh, okay. And that's all we've got time for today. That was sort of him. I feel like what he was doing was almost trauma edging. Right, that's sort of what I felt like he was doing, do you know what I mean? I'd just be there talking to him and I'd be like, all right, well, this thing happened when I was about 4. This led to me developing this sort of skill set or response to bad things. Then I started doing that, and that's sort of where I'm at, and that's probably why I respond, and I'm like this in relationships, and I'm really there now. And then he'd go, and that's our time for today. And I'd be like, oh, mate, I was so close. Gonna have to finish myself off with some journaling later. And that was sort of the Peter thing. And another thing happened, which was I went for a coffee with a mate of mine called Brenna. Right, now, the first time I saw Brenna, something in my primordial DNA just went, you must breed with this one, sustain the bloodline. Right, it's about sort of 6 foot curvy woman, right, child bearer, do you know what I mean? Just sort of really tapped into my sort of old Hrumnia DNA, right, the old genetics. And no, it happened. I was in a relationship and had a moon phase. She was married at the time, but then this was a few years ago, right? And then we went for this coffee and it became quite flirty, and then went for another little date after that, and then another date, and then on the 4th date, we're sort of hanging out, and then towards the sort of middle of it, she goes, I've got to move back to Australia in a few months. And then all I heard in my head was, how bad you want it? And I said to her, I was like, can I come? And she went, yeah. And then all I heard was, good. Right, and then we started putting things in place for me to move out. She went back in October, I moved out in the December, right, and the first person I met when I landed was some immigration border patrol. This was my sort of maiden voyage to Melbourne. Right, first person I landed was some immigration border patrol. He pulls me to one side and he goes, you got any nuts and seeds in your bag? Got any nuts and seeds in your bag? Don't be messing with our delicate flora and fauna. I said, mate, Australia is about 90% uninhabitable. Why not let some foreign elements have a crack at it? And then I was internally interrogated. Didn't mind it. Next person I met was after he filled that form out where it says, do you have any criminal convictions? And I remember reading that as an Englishman thinking, is that still a requirement? It's a very hot room. You're probably not going to be able to laugh as much as you want at some of the jokes, right? And I got to him and he was lovely. He goes, 3 months, tourist visa, it's a long time, mate. What are you going to do? Just can't work. And I go, oh, well, I'll probably read a bit. I'll watch a bit of YouTube, you know, there's loads of stuff on there. I'll struggle to finish it. And he goes, all right. And where are you going to be staying? And I said, oh, with my girlfriend's mother. Which is true, and every bit the nightmare you'd imagine it to be. Fair play to him, he just looks at me and says, are you sure you don't want me to send you back? I'm a fucking legend. It's true, right, we did. We lived with our mum in Box Hill. So essentially the family unit was me, Brenna, Ella, the mum, and Lola, the 15-year-old Kelpie. Right, now basically Brenna and I would be in one half of the house, and Ella and Lola would be in the other half of the house in Box Hill. And what would happen is one of them would just be sort of sat at the window barking at the Chinese, and the other one would just be sat on the carpet being a dog. But we were there for a bit. Brenna went back to uni. We'd not been together for a year, right? I couldn't work for that first year, and it was basically on at the 6-month mark we were able to put the sort of immigration paperwork in for the partner visa. Has anyone in here done that? That's all right. If you've not, that's totally fine, right? We had to do it online. It's quite good for me as an accountant because it's basically just sort of collecting receipts and sending them in. You've got to collect testimonies from people. People write statements sort of validating your relationship and your union, right? And her mum and dad and some of our mates wrote these really lovely letters, and my dad wrote an absolute beauty. It just read, seems legit. Gets me right in the feels. Just telling you a bit about Brenna, right? She's basically like if Snow White watched nothing but true crime and The Simpsons, right? Quite a sort of snowflake woman with a lot of horror in her brain when she goes to sleep. Really lovely lady. To tell you, almost like a politician's like Grace, I think, to really give you an analogue of that. She met my granda. She met my granda before we moved out. My granda, when asked how old he was, responded, I'm 2 fat ladies. Right, now you know you are a northern man if you respond to numerical questions in bingo calls. Right, he was 88 at the time, formidable man. And they just started talking, and it all seems quite nice. We just sat outside my dad's house. My dad had bought this flipping footballer's house. It was pretty ridiculous. And we're just sort of hanging out outside with the dogs and stuff. And my granddad like leans in. It seems like they're having a lovely time, him and Brenna. And he goes, so you're from Melbourne, are you? And she goes, yeah. and you lived in London? And she goes, yeah. And then there's this little hush, and then he just goes, so how do you get on with the blacks? Right? Me and my dad move like the Secret Service agents around JFK who've seen the shooter too late. Right, where it's like, no! Like just struggling to throw a coat over the neck of JFK, right, while his brains are all over Jackie Onassis. And we're just like, shit, well, fuck it. You know, and then basically Brenner deftly responds by going, I get on with them fine. And we were like, we really dropped the bollock there. And but it was all fine. And now all we have is tension. But she was great, that's my point, right? She dealt with that really well. And so yeah, dead nice. And we were sort of living with our mum for a while. And basically after the first 6 months, we put the visa paperwork in, so we had all of those testimonies. And there's another lovely thing that you've got to do, which is submit any correspondence from your time apart. Now, I don't know if you know this, but WhatsApp, you can download full conversations as CSVs or text files. Right now, during some of our times apart, things got a little bit horny, right? I fucking love a sex message. Now, did I elect to edit those out of the submission to immigration? No, I did not, because I feel like they've got a really hard job, and if I can give them a few minutes of joy, that feels like the least I can do to get the paperwork over the line. So I left it in, right, we'll put all that in, and then sort of parked it, and then so a few things happened. One of them, I had basically one mate, right, who was like in here, right in front of me, which is gorgeous, but I genuinely had like one mate that I knew from like pre-Melbourne life. Everything else was just Brenner and the house. I played a little bit of social basketball. I played with two teams in Box Hill. One team called Asian Dads, the other team White Dads. Pretty cool. And I had no one. Basically, my only sort of social inputs, the additions, were Brenner's mates, partners. That was sort of the only people I could really recruit, right? And it was pretty rough. Right? And another thing during all of it, like, well, they're like during lockdown and stuff like that. No, one of the things was, I don't know how you've got on through lockdown. I thought it was pretty rough. I feel like you had to find things to do to get through it. One of the things that I did was I got into cocktail making. Right, so what I very cleverly did was I turned my drinking problem into a developmental hobby. I would say I don't have a drinking problem. I would say I have a very temporary anxiety and depression solution. Those Sazeracs will make themselves. But the other thing that I would do, and I would recommend you all take this with you, is I would pair our menu with whatever big HBO box set we were watching. I think this is a fantastic idea, right? So when we watched Game of Thrones, I did loads of stews and pies and gamey meats and paired them with red wine. Watched Justified, and I made loads of fried chicken and mint juleps and moonshine, and then watched Breaking Bad, and I just made meth for about a month. The weight fell off. And the other thing I would do is I just started watching all of them, like rewatching all of the Marvel films, just sort of trying to like self-soothe. Right? I don't know whether anyone else did this. I got to a point where I was watching some of the Marvel content just to get to the end of credit scene at the end, just to see what the next thing was. Do you know what I mean? Just sort of suffering this like mediocre content, just like, what's the next hit gonna be, man? Right? I don't feel like you get that in any other art form. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't like listen to a pop song and then you're like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen at the end. I fucking hate this, but the next 45 after the little break might be decent. You need to feel quite hard done by. But yeah, so essentially the May Have a No Mates where that really blew up is I went on a... You're doing incredibly well keeping that jacket on in this heat, by the way, mate.
It's fucking hot.
Yeah, take your jacket off, man.
Look at the space.
I'm alright with you standing up to take that jacket off. It is sweltering in here. I don't want you to be rank when you leave. If anyone's got the jacket on, it's totally fine if you want to just take a moment now just to stand up and take it off. It's not a strip show, but this is a ludicrously hot room. And I'm getting about like a 60% response on some of the jokes because you're too fucking hot. So yeah, like, keep yours on. That's know that it's your choice. So yeah. So anyway, so I don't have very many mates. You're all good, man. I've been worried about you. Man, how Australian is this dude? Where the fuck is he from? The equator. What? Good head of hair on him as well. He's insulated. And the beard, keeping all the heat in. But yeah, so anyway, so where this really blew up is I went on a book stew with a bloke that I had only really met twice before. I'd met him twice socially, and then for our third meeting I'd been invited on his book stew. which I would say is pretty psychotic and not how it should normally work. He was like a sort of Queensland refugee. He'd moved to Melbourne to be with his fiancée, and he didn't really have many mates either, and we got on lovely, so he just thought he'd put the call out. And we very rapidly completed sort of book stew bingo. We went to the footy, then went to a bar, then went to a casino, then went to the strippers, went to a gentleman's club called Kittens. I don't know why they are known as gentlemen's clubs. There's very little chivalry there. Right? No one's inviting anyone for a duel. It's mainly just flesh. Now, before we get too far into it, while I was still living in London for the last sort of few months, I used to open for a male strip troupe. Right, now by that I mean I would perform comedy before them. I don't mean those 20 fucking horse-cocked athletes left me agape. I recognise that as a brutal sentence for this sauna of a room. But the words don't go back in the tube. But yeah, they were called the Forbidden. They were this sort of troupe of beautiful, really ripped men who were this sort of like Magic Mike style trip act, and they used to perform in Leicester Square Night, a sort of 400-seater venue, and they were like, oh, can you come and do comedy for us? And the first time I went to do comedy for them, I'd been recommended by a mate who was a singer, and they were like, oh, can you just go and do 15, 20 before us, while they were all sort of pumping themselves up and all that in the back room. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I went out on stage, I used to dress quite dandy. I had like a nice jacket on, and a shirt and a cravat and all of this sort of stuff. And I was like, all right, ladies, are you up for some comedy? And they were like, yeah, because eventually we're going to see Willies. Right, quite a sort of feral bunch of 400 women, all high off Prosecco, estrogen, and fury at the patriarch. Right, they were all getting their own back for all of the wrongs of society. Do you know what I mean? They were like, this is for the gender pay gap, this is for the lack of diversity in boardrooms, this is for the imbalance of survival of our race and childbirth. All while drinking out of straws with little pink willies on the end, before getting whacked in the head by some bloke's cocklet to me looked like a newborn dash hunt. Right. They were remarkable, right? And now when I was like, all right, ladies, are you up for some jokes? And they're like, yeah, Shacks, want to see Willies. Right, now I genuinely think to this day that they thought that I was a character act. I think they were just there going, oh yeah, sure, normally strippers come out dressed as like firemen or police or soldiers, but I guess this one's just come out as a dandy comedian. Let's see what this gangly piece of shit's got. Right, do you know what I mean? And then first minute they were all right, they were sort of laughing along at the gags, do you know what I mean? Second minute, started to be a little bit of a hush. Third minute, they started to get a little bit angry. And then in the fourth minute, this slow chorus just started off, which is a very tricky heckle to get at a strip gig, because I didn't know if they wanted me to leave or disrobe. And I went, look, you beautiful woman, right, you've come here for what you've come here for, I'll do your deal. If I do it, I'll do a joke, and if I do a joke that you don't like, you can shout off just the once, and I'll take an item of clothing off. Is that cool? And they're like, yeah, knobs! Right, and long story short, I was naked in a minute and a half. And that was the beginning of the end of me as a one-liner comedian. If anything, it serves too good a return on investment. And I did my time, right? They were absolutely great, right? And I went backstage, and the lads were really complimentary, because it was like a few minutes before changeover. And they were like, that was great, that was loads better than the last guy. And I was like, are you for fucking real? What happened to him? And then, oh, he was beaten to death by dildos. It's one of the worst ends you could meet. Most of them were used. He was working out the DNA was a mess. It was death by 1,000 cuts, so, in a way. And they were like, we'd love it if you'd sign up to be our warm-up act for the next 12 weeks. And I just survived unscathed, you know, just got out by the skin of my teeth. And I went, really? And they went, yeah, we'd love it. And I went, what's the money? And they went, oh, it's 300 a night. And all I heard was, how bad do you want it? yeah, all right, good. I was in, and I did that right, and it was like an absolute just fucking baptism of fire. It was brutal. And there's things from that I will never unsee, and Peter heard a lot of my horrors. And it was brutal. But anyway, yeah, so I did that, and anyway, yeah, back to Kittens. So we were there, right? We were sort of heading to Kittens, and all of the lads sort of went in ahead of me, right? I knew the bouncer because he does work during comedy festivals, so I got tied up with him. By the time I sort of got into the club, right? I was sort of looking for them at the bar. What I did not know is the best man had arranged for some sort of special celebrations to be had by the groomsmen in some little back room somewhere. So when I got in there, they'd already been spirited away into the back room. So I was just there, just on my own, in a strip club. And I immediately became quite uncomfortable. I said, oh, well, I'll go and have a drink and hopefully one of them will pop out and I'll be able to find out where they are. I'm sort of messaging Peter, was the only guy who I know. I sort of think in hindsight I had his phone somewhere else by that point. And I'm just there having a drink, right? And what happens is the women come up here and they sort of try to just have a chat with them, do you know what I mean? They're all dead lovely. They're like, oh, do you want to have a drink and a dance? And I'm like, oh, well, I'll have a drink, but I can't have a dance, right? Because I knew Brenna, and I'm pretty sure one of her love languages was not other vaginas on top of you, right? Sort of, I was pretty confident about that. Yeah, she's pretty, she's fucking uncharted land snowflake. And I was like, no, you're all right. And then they just didn't come out for a couple of hours. So I was just there, just boofing whiskies, right? And then after about an hour, I'd had about 5 whiskies. And Ulag had the wheel, right? Ulag was very much in control by that point, I think, and this lass came up to talk to me, and she looked like, I guess, what I had idolised when I was sort of in my late teens, which was like a cross between prime Salma Hayek, Monica Bellucci and Eva Mendes, right? It's a sort of wonderful triangle, right? And we're having like a lovely chat, we have a couple of drinks, really nice, she seems lovely. And then she goes, I think we're getting on really well, should we go and have a dance? And then Ulag goes, yes. I would like that how you say real bad. That would be very nice, thank you. And then we go backstage, right? We go into a little back room and we start having dances. Now, I don't know if you've ever had a lap dance, right? I wouldn't be one to assume. Now, I think having a lap dance is a bit like they have inverted the process of when you were a child and you used to sit in those little rides outside of the shops. Do you know what I mean? Where you'd sort of sit in the little car and it would go just up and down for about a minute and a half. And then you'd go to your mum and dad, oh, can I have another 50 pence? It's basically that, right? Essentially, you're just getting sort of dry humped to a pop song. It's pretty incredible, right? I feel like it's a bit like being on a roller coaster that you don't really believe is safe. Because the experience for me, as I found it, was basically just trying to keep all of my limbs as close to me as possible, right? Trying to maintain full eye contact with those eyes. Because I was scared about any exposed limbs or appendages being ripped off, not really by the roller coaster, more by the islander bouncer who looked like he wanted to get revenge for what my ancestors did to his ancestors, right? So, presumably during Gulliver's Travels, no? I sort of got through it and it was alright, Joe, mate. I got through it, an understatement. Like, long story short, I was there for 2 hours, I spent $450 and I had the time of my life. Don't mind telling you. It was magic. It was really good fun. No one got nothing went wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like I said before, my previous partner was she was a sex worker, right? So I had a sort of different understanding of the transactional nature of sex work. I was just like, there's no bloody feelings. They just get fucking spirited away after me, right? That's basically, it's just like karaoke. And I mean, it's not quite like karaoke, do you know what I mean? Like, I really get into it at karaoke, and I was really restrained during the dance. I do Arabella and Pulp, if you're wondering. And so anyway, so it all went pretty well, right? I just sort of went home. I was like, I'm never going to see them. I just got in a cab, went home, and it was all going really lovely till the next day when Brenna basically starts her inquisition / cross examination, right? I've got like a false, like a level 6 hangover. Like, I'm not hugging the toilet bowl, but I'm not getting up to do park run either. Right, so I'm sort of with her, and she goes, what'd you do last night, babe? What'd you do last night? And I go, oh, just books do stuff really, just sort of stag do stuff, try to roll over, go back to sleep. Half an hour later, what'd you do last night, babe? Where'd you go? It's okay, you can tell me, where'd you go? Oh, no, you're all right. I mean, just books do stuff. You've seen The Hangover, just that, but, without Mike Tyson and all the stuff. You know what happens, we just did that. Half an hour later, again. What'd you do? It's okay. I want to know. You can tell me. You can tell me, go on. Tell me. Exactly. Now, during my self-help journey, which I am still on, I read this great book by Brené Brown called Daring Greatly. Now, what this book implores you to do is share your truth. Share your truth and be vulnerable. Right? Now, no one had ever been more vulnerable than those women dancing before me in the previous night, and inspired by them, I thought I would be vulnerable to Brenna and share my truth. And I said, okay, love, this is what happened. I went here, went here, and then we went to Kittens, and I had a few dances, and then I came back. And it was at this point I realised I made a terrible mistake. Because she fucking lost it. She absolutely lost it. To say she went from 0 to 100 is reductive to the phrase 0 to 100. She went somewhere in the quintillions, right? She didn't crack the shits. What she did was she gathered all the shits together, took them to a nuclear testing facility, and rained hellfire on them for hours. She was like, I can't fucking believe you would do this, you fucking piece of shit. I feel so fucking betrayed. I'd never heard her swear. I just railing on me, you piece of shit, you motherfucker, you. And all I said was, good. And she went, excuse me, what? And I went, good. We will encounter harder stuff than this, right? We as a relationship will go through more meaningful, more challenging shit than me having a few dances and coming in pissed. So this is an important and an opportunity for us to talk and grow as a couple and go through this challenge. And she went, you're not getting away with that, you piece of shit. And I went, good. Because I loved it, I just saw it as an opportunity for us to converse more. And essentially she just continued losing. She's like, I don't know how you lose. Like, how? What? And like, why? And I was like, well, the how, they make it so easy, right? They really want it to happen, right? They've got a very straightforward business model. It's mainly skin-based. It's mainly drinks and women, right? The why is, the way the what, I suppose, is just dances. It was just dances. I don't know what you think had happened, but I was just sort of getting gyrated upon. It was like a weird massage, right? And the why is because that's all there was to do. Again, very simple business model. They don't have a library or an arcade. I would have loved it if I could have topped up on me reading, do a bit of Seneca while everyone was getting hammered. Right? She's just fucking fuming with me, right? And I get it, right? I had a different view on it all because of what I'd been in against what she'd been in, and we'd never really spoken about it to sort of go through that prior. And I'd been reading Stoicism, which had been teaching me about how to frame stuff. So I was like, look, there's a few ways we can look at it. Right, there's a few ways we can frame this. Yeah. Yeah. These jokes are happening, mate. You can take this for when you're debating child arguments later on. So I was like, there's 3 ways we can look at this. 1, we can say that I'm like a piece of shit and I betrayed you, and if you want to say that, that's fine. 2, we can say that I am supporting local businesses and I am buying Victorian coming out of COVID. The 3rd way is we can say that I am making a philanthropic, benevolent gesture, supporting a charity that helps out single mothers and women who had tough upbringings, presumably of absent fathers, which is a thing that very much resonates with me. And she went, we're going with the first one, cunt. And I was like, that's okay. And then what happened is I was on the city, right? I was very much in the doghouse, and because the dog lived in the house. That was the only reason. And yeah, I was in the city, and it was brutal. We had a really awful few days, right? She wasn't speaking to us, and it was awful. And I was like, oh fuck, I might have to move back. This might be like our end. Right? And we worked it out, thankfully, right? But this was after like a few days, and I thought, like, what have I done? Right? I've gone without sleep, and I've not eaten for 3 or 4 days to make my dreams become a reality. Because that is what I want, real bad. And eventually we worked it out, right? And then a few things happened sort of over that year, right? One of them, because I couldn't work, I'd gone and knocked out all my exams, or nearly all my exams, right? So I was pretty qualified when I was eventually able to work. We've got about another 7 minutes left, right? You've been absolutely terrific in this ludicrously hot room. Yeah. I passed a load of my exams because that became like the only thing that I could focus on. Previously I'd just been messing out, because one of the things that led to me passing all those exams when I was in Kittens. Yeah, get ready for this, fucking super callback. I finally understood the time value of money. I was in there for 2 hours, I spent $450. At the time of my life, I finally understood the time value of money, the peak value of joy. So for me, it's $225 an hour. So that meant that I had an indexing system for whenever Brenna came and pitched me with something that I would inevitably have to pay for. Do you know what I mean? It would be like, oh, what we're doing? We're going out for dinner. What that cost is a couple $100 probably. That's nothing for a night with you. Do you know what I mean? Oh, what's that? 1,200 for a week in Bali. What would that be? Oh, that'd be fucking 6 hours in kittens. That'd be way too much. But I'd get bored. I'd start reading on my Kindle on my phone. I'd just find like a Luke. So that was really valuable. Do you know what I mean? I finally sort of understood it, and then everything was lovely. I'd sort of, what happened? I'd got a job in the city. I was working at this place called Osnet, right in the South Bank, and I went for a coffee during the day, and just sort of sat in this little cafe, having my espresso, and I look up, and sat just over from me, basically like where you are, like that sort of second row distance away. I see Chastity, right? Who was the lady in question between the hours of 1:07 and 1:21. And we recognised each other, because when I say we like looked into each other's eyes, she'd looked into mine and I'd looked into hers, and we instantly recognised each other and we start talking, and it's lovely, right? She'd just been working out and had come out to this cafe for a lunch and stuff like that, and we're just sort of having a chat, and it's dead nice. We're sort of hanging out for 10 minutes. I tell her what happened, and she's like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot, you should have like told us some of that shit, you moron. People don't know who Jocko Willink is. I was like, they will. And so anyway, we're talking for a bit, and then after about 10 minutes, I think, there's just like this little lull in conversation, right? Now I can't, for whatever reason, because I'm tired or excited or something, I just can't think of anything to say. And I don't know what made me do this, but I just looked at her and I went, are you still dancing? Are you still working at kittens? How many nights of the week are you working? How does it work for Paul? Do you have to pay for your own lotions and potions? The skin damage must be brutal. Have you thought about maybe taking advantage of an online platform, maybe like OnlyFans or have you heard of Pornhub? Then she threw a coffee on me and I thought, good. That's what she wanted real bad. And then after that, what happened was I went back and I didn't tell Brenna because I'm not a fucking moron. And but yeah, after that, all things went well, right? Do you know what I mean? We sort of worked stuff out. I got my PR visa approved, got qualified, and everything's lovely, right? And that's the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen, right? If you've enjoyed it, please tell people word of mouth is really important. If you want to clap, you can do that now. That'd be awesome. You've been a really great crowd. I'm really grateful to thank you, and have a lovely, lovely festival. Thank you very much. Oh, what? Oh, what? It's only the end of credits scene. Little cheeky Marvel deleted scene, everybody. So, by means of an update, in October last year, Brenna and I separated. Right? It's alright, shit happens. And basically what happens is we were about to start trying for a band, and she was not sure what she wanted in life, and she said that to me. She was like, I don't know what I want from life, I don't think I can work that out while I'm in the relationship. And I heard that, and I just said, good. Because all I want is for her to have her happiest life, and all I want is for me to have my happiest life, right? Do you know what I mean? And I said to her, I was like, if you go away, and if you work out what you want, and if that brings you back, we'll have a look at it. If it doesn't, awesome. Go have the best life, right? I'm not hanging out for you, I'm trying to have the best of my journey here. And what happened after that is, I stopped working as an accountant in October. I've just been doing comedy since then. It's been absolutely fucking fantastic. So I've been able to repoint, and I've been able to relentlessly chase joy and in performance. And you people here are absolutely integral to that and enable me to do that. So I'm immensely grateful to you, right? And I want to say thank you for doing such a good job. Because doing this is absolutely what I want. Real bad. So thank you very much, right? There's only one deleted scene, it's not Avengers Endgame. If you want to have a drink afterwards, this pub's fantastic, stick around and have a drink. Thank you ever so much, have a lovely, lovely festival. Please tell people thank you. I don't know how we're going to get out.